And she showed up last minute when I called her and said, help. You are a gift. You are a gift to this community. Get here if you can. There is that which is calling us. There is that which is stirring and moving at the center of all creation, and it's saying, get here. Crawl on your belly. Do whatever you have to do to make it to the infinite awareness and consciousness that we belong to each other, that God has chosen to do business as you. Yes? How many people try to get there once or twice and then give up? The dream that is calling you, you do it once or twice and you give up. You know, how many people remember the story of the bamboo? It's an old story, but I'm going to just really quick go through it. It's the story of the bamboo, that the guy planted the seed in the soil and he tended it, he fertilized it, he gave it sun, he gave it water, and he took care of it. And after 1 year, the bamboo grew 1 inch. He said, he got a little tired. He said, but I'm going to keep on it. Okay, tend it, fertilize it, give it sun, give it water. The next year, it grows 1 inch. For 6 years, that's what happens. Year after year after year after year, the bamboo grows 1 inch. That's when most people give up. On year 7, the way bamboo works, you've tended it for 7 years, and 7 is the number that means as long as it takes, the bamboo goes 80 feet. 80 feet. There is an important spiritual component to perseverance, to consistency, to seeing it through to the end. And I got to live that this week. I was sitting at the dining room table, and there's this beautiful giant picture window at our dining room table. And outside that window was a pink dogwood tree. It was gorgeous. The sun was hitting those blooms just perfectly, and it was shining. And I went, how blessed am I? And I thought, this is the story of the bamboo. 10 years ago, we were sitting at the dining room table when the forest that we thought was going to be our backyard was completely leveled. And they put in houses. Big monstrosities of houses that looked down in the middle of the night, could see everything going on in the Burdick's dining room through that big picture window. And the only thing between us and those big monstrous houses was a little tiny sickly dogwood tree on the first floor. We inherited it when we bought the house. It had never bloomed. Never bloomed. But I thought, you know what? It's the only thing between us and that which we don't want. So I began a journey of exploration, of tending to this sickly dogwood tree. I got an arborist out there to help me figure out what to do with it. I gave it all the nutrients. I gave it all the water. I cleared things around so it could get the sun, and it could stretch to the sun. And the first year, it grew about 6 or 7 inches in height. I thought, I can grow that tree to block those houses. And I was praying, I was on my knees. God, make this tree grow, make this tree grow. And the second year, it grew about 1 foot, but it was still on the first floor. But the third year, it got its first blossom. Oh, that was exciting until I was getting very tired. The 4th year and the 5th year, it's like, this isn't worth it. This tree's never going to fill this window. It's just not going to happen. And I quit. And then yes, I quit. It does happen. I am human after all. And I called my friend. I saw that the tree began to wither. It had become diseased because I had quit paying attention to it. So I called my friend Joe Green, member of this congregation, and said, help. He came out and he says, when was the last time you did this? When was the last time you did that? And I said, I don't remember. He says, that's why your tree's dying. But it's not too late. So I got back on the consistency process of tending that tree. And much like the bamboo, it didn't go 80 feet. Dogwood trees don't grow quite that tall. But the reality is, about 2 or 3 years ago, I got that view of a dogwood tree that blocked out all the houses and gave me the shining essence of God in pink. It's a pink dogwood tree, and I got to see it. The only reason I got to see it was my diligent efforts to make it happen, my persistent efforts to make it happen. It seemed hopeless, and that's when you absolutely have to dig in and dig deep and still be consistent. Yes? Anybody here ever realize a dream that you had to get through tired, worn out, on your knees in order to get the dream? There is strength there. There's God there. Sometimes when we're on our knees is when we find that power and that presence to see it through to the end, to fulfill it. Hold that as the foundation of what I'm talking about today, okay? I'll refer to it. As a kid, I remember a song I only sang about once a year, but it was an earworm that would stick with you. It was during Santa Claus is Coming to Town, the yearly animated special. And it's a song that if you know it, sing it with me. Put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking across the floor. Put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking out the door. There's a whole bunch of people on the spiritual path, on the path of dreaming and becoming, that hold a vision and they think about that dream coming to reality. They hold that goal, they hold that blossoming of the life that they want in the window of their life, in the window of their consciousness, and they think they're going to think themselves and visualize themselves across the floor and out the door, and suddenly the window will be filled with pink blossoms. And they do it once, maybe twice, and then they wonder why the goal never manifested. Why is it I'm not healthy yet? Why is it I'm not rich and wealthy yet? Why have I not attracted that relationship I've been looking for? Why is it isn't working? It never happens. Sometimes we take a step or two or maybe three, and then we get tired and we wonder, why hasn't it manifested yet? Why are these things not happening? And let me remind you that perseverance, consistency, patience, and commitment are spiritual practices. Without them, the tree dies. Without them, the tree withers, and the life withers as well. As a foster parent, many of you know that I was a foster parent, Susie and I, and we used to, debate and argue and go to classes to say, what was the best parenting method? What's the best way to raise children? And there are hundreds upon hundreds of ways to raise kids, and what we realized, maybe later than some, luckily I'm married to somebody who recognized it, oh, there she is, before I did, was that it didn't matter really which system we were implementing. What mattered more than anything was our consistent implementation of the system. There are 1,000 good ways to raise kids. There are a couple of bad ones, but there are 1,000 good ones, and it matters less which path you choose to raise your children, and matters much more that you are consistent about implementing that method, those structures and those guardrails, so that your kids can feel safe. With consistency, our foster kids responded. Whether it was the right method or the wrong method didn't really matter. With consistency, they responded. Those kids healed. Those kids achieved. And most of all, with the consistency, they felt safe enough to thrive. Safe enough to thrive. They knew they could count on us. They knew that our consistency was going to pay off and that they were safe, even if they rebelled against it. Even if it was difficult, they came back years later and said, thank you for the guardrails. Thank you for the courage and the strength to not give up on me. Thank you for the courage and the strength to keep going even when I was, and we had one of our kids call her and said, I'm just calling to apologize because I was a rotten kid. And we said, no, you weren't a rotten kid. You just needed a couple of parents to remind you that you're beautiful, you're holy, you're magnificent, and to never give up and waver on that commitment to you. And we called it out. Repeat this after me. Consistency breeds success. Put your hand on your heart and feel the energy of that. Consistency breeds success. We all remember the kid's story about the hare and the tortoise, yes? Slow and steady wins the race. And so many in the New Thought circles are all about, I want it and I want it now. I go after it with all the fervor and passion which is necessary. Fervor and passion and zeal is necessary for the achievement, but on the long haul. We're looking for a spiritual high in the New Thought community. Hit me, baby. I feel good, I want to dance. But then 2 years in, the tree hasn't bloomed yet. 2 years in, the tree only grew 6 inches. The bamboo was only an inch. I don't want to do it anymore. That's the moment where God can happen, when we get on our knees and we say, I have within me the capacity to see this through to the end. Yes? It's absolutely essential. Our lives are the offspring of our habits. Consistent effort equals consistent results. Let's put that slide up there and let's say that together. Consistency or intensity? Which one is going to get you to the destination? A lot of New Thought people are at that green arrow. Yes! No. Yes! Maybe tomorrow. Consistent efforts equals consistent results. Who would like to have results in your life? Who would like to have your life being a shining example of a dogwood tree, filling the window of your life with beautiful pink blooms that catch the sun health and wealth and love and prosperity and all that's good and holy and wonderful. We all want that. But not all of us are willing to work that hard for as long as it takes. 7 years. You know, we say many paths, one God. In this church, many paths, one God, and we don't really care what path you choose. It matters little what path you choose to raise your kids or what path you choose to raise yourself in spiritual ideas. Pick one. Don't be a spiritual dabbler. We get so bored. Well, I tried unity once, and it was good, but then I thought, well, I'm going to go over to Buddhism, and I'll be a Buddhist. And then maybe next week it'll be the religion of the month. I'll try Islam and see what they're all about, or Christianity. Maybe I'll see what it feels like to be an atheist. I don't care what path you pick. Love is central to it, and your consistency and your commitment to the path is what's going to get you to the destination, not which one you pick. Yes? Bill Withers, the co-founder of AA, said this: "The only people who scoff at prayer are those who have not tried it long enough." The only people who scoff at prayer are the ones who have not tried it long enough, who are intense about it and then quit halfway through. One of my favorite movies from childhood, I know you all seen it because we're at the same demographic, The Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. That's boring. No, then when you feel you've got that down, let's go paint the fence. Up and down. Stain the fence. Okay, Karate Kid, now let's strip the fence. Up and down. Up and down. It was meaningless. Meaningless work, meaningless tasks until it wasn't. Meaningless motions until they weren't. Repeated motions that don't seem to be of any value until they are. Muscle built. We're building muscle spiritually here. That's what we do here, yes? Come on, give me one of these. We as a community are creating spiritual muscles with every single ritual we take part in. It is a ritual to show up here on Sunday. It is a ritual, the White Stone. We flock to White Stone because the ritual means something to you. And each year, there's a little bit of an increase, an amplification. Because you have been consistent for the years. How many have more than 10 white stones sitting on their altar? You understand the importance of consistency. And then you revisit that energy each time you have a white stone ceremony or each time you walk by your altar and you see the white stone, that consistent remembrance, that consistent effort is essential to the meaning of the white stone. I want you to consider today that it is one of our rituals to consistently give. We are a community that consistently gives, and a few years back we realized we were not giving at 10%. Our board of directors says, let's live spiritual law. Let's live into what we are being called to do and consistently give 10%. We made it this year. And we've made it more prosperous in mind and heart than we've ever been. But it was the consistency that got us there. And when we're going from 5% to 6 to 7, around 8%, we had a bit of a hiccup. I don't know if we can still do this. And thank God for the consciousness of our board of directors says, no, we do not waver. We keep one foot in front of the other, and soon we will be walking out the door. And that's what we're doing, tithing 10%, sometimes more, because we believe in the spiritual principle and working the program instead of letting the program work us. We are working the spiritual laws and the spiritual principles. It is essential that we don't waver on that. Wes Adamson writes this. He puts it way better than I do. Together, rituals are like electrically powered transmitters, sending stimulating sparks of electric current or inspirational feelings that connect us to our inner being or soul. The changes are happening on the inside before they're happening on the outside. The dogwood tree is blooming on the inside before it's blooming on the outside. The child has to feel safe and prosperous and able and worthy and respected on the inside before it can ever manifest on the outside. Put one foot in front of the other. Consistency is a portal to God. Say that with me. Consistency is a portal to God. And then it goes this way. Consistency is a portal to God, to my awakening, to my spirit, to my well-being, to my blossoming, to my becoming. And that means not giving up when it gets difficult. But don't take my word for it. A study at MIT, way smarter people than I, discovered that repetition strengthens neural pathways. Exactly what Wes Adamson is saying. Things are firing inside. Electrical currents are bouncing all around your mind, your heart, your spirit, and your being. That means consistent practice, whether prayer, meditation, or giving, rewires your brain. It matters less what path you are choosing. It matters that you still work the program so that the neural pathways can connect. You're fixing the idea of consciousness first here and then out there with the consistent practice. Anybody ever notice how the smallest habits of your life absolutely dictate what kind of life you have? The smallest routines shape the biggest parts of our lives. The way you start your morning. How many people have a ritual in the morning? Yeah, we are creatures of habit. You know, I said, what is your spiritual practice at first service? We were out in the labyrinth, and 3 people, when I asked the question, what is your spiritual habit and spiritual practice in the morning? Coffee. Amen. The way we start our mornings, the way we go to bed, the ritual before we go to bed at night is determining what kind of life you're going to have tomorrow. What you're going to bed with in your heart and your mind and your thought and the habits that you put into the day in between are determining the life you're going to have next week, next month, 7 years from now, 10 years from now. We are the product of people who made decisions sitting in these seats 10 years ago and who did not give up on the vision and the dream of what was possible. How about eating habits? You are a product of your eating habits. That's a sermon for another time that I won't give. The words that you are consistently speaking, the words you are consistently allowing into the laboratory of your mind and your heart, the feelings that you are welcoming into the sanctuary of your heart day in and day out, the people we consistently hang with. You're becoming like the people you hang out with. If you don't like what you see in the mirror, take a look at the community and go, I might want to make a different choice. Change the habit, change the pattern, but let me do it consistently. These daily choices are the foundation of our lives and our future. Consistency in our spiritual practice is the key to transformation. Yes? Consistency in our giving is the key to prosperity. And that's just not a pretty theory. That's not a minister coming up here about ready to ask you for more. It is a practically lived experience in my life. Just as beautifully demonstrated as a dogwood tree that fills my window is the spiritual practice of when I finally committed and changed the soil of my consciousness, I became more abundant, more prosperous. I don't know how it works, but I know it works. It doesn't really matter what method you choose, just work the method and then live the prosperity and be ready to receive. Yes? Rivers. I love to use nature. Just as a river can carve out the stone, the hard stone, a river with its consistent efforts a persistent flow will shape the rock. And your consistent, persistent, perseverant efforts are shaping your life today and tomorrow. It's shaping your destiny. Small, faithful, and consistent rituals of generosity lead us to lasting prosperity. But let's go to smarter people than I to prove the point. Let's put the next quote up there. There it is. Let's read it from Aristotle together. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. All right, Tony Robbins, together. It's not what we do once in a while that shapes our lives. It's what we do consistently. Today is a call to spiritual perseverance, even when it's difficult, even when it's hard, even when you are tired. The seeds that you plant today, in this very moment, in this very room, in your very experience, they may not bloom overnight. You may pray at that dogwood tree of your life, please, God, stretch it. I don't want to look at these houses. As long as it takes, you stay the course. With steady care, they will bear fruit. But there are immediate benefits to the tending of the garden, yes? What might they be? Well, let me give you Harvard Business School's answer. Flowers? Absolutely. Harvard Business School study confirmed that people who give consistently experience greater happiness. I always tell people, you want more love in your life, go be more loving. Go love somebody. You want more prosperity in your life, go do something for somebody else and demonstrate and speak and invite the universe to that consciousness of enough. That consciousness of absolutely claiming the truth that you are enough, you have enough, and that God is enough through you, around you, and as you. It says, those who give consistently experience greater happiness and financial stability. Anybody here today would like to have more financial stability? I prayed that prayer about 20 years ago, and then I started tithing. I am more financially stable today because I made that commitment. And the window, the picture window, feels like it's full of blooms. Just when I start to panic and get worried, unexpected income shows up in my life. Unexpected good shows up in my life. Unexpected people show up that take care of me. And then I get to do that for somebody else. I love being an unexpected good for somebody else. We live in the flow, and when you're in the flow, no rock can block the way. What we regularly give, we will regularly receive. We will be consistently plant, we harvest. Jesus said it in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 6. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured into your lap. Open your arms. Open your arms. Are you ready to receive? And counter to the human ego, put your ego aside, because counter to the human ego is if you're ready to receive, then you're ready to tend the blossom. You're ready to tend the tree. You're ready to tend the child. You're ready to tend the life. You're ready to do whatever it takes to change at depth, to change here so that what's out here can change. That's hard work. Yep, there's nothing easy about it, and it is scary. But I'm telling you, that's not just a pretty theory. It's the reality of spiritual law in play, and I'm living it. I'm absolutely living it. As a child, I participated in a family garden. I was very fortunate to grow up in the country, 40 acres, and my grandparents and cousins and aunts and uncles all living together, and we had a family garden that was maybe a little bigger than the one we have in the back there. And I remember loving what came from that garden. I did like certain vegetables. And I remember absolutely loving the harvest that came out of our family garden. I wanted to eat the great food, but I really didn't want to work that hard. I love lemon cucumbers. I have a love affair with lemon cucumbers. You people in Georgia don't know what they are. They are the sweetest cucumber. They're yellow and they're shaped like a lemon. Oh my gosh, it's like candy. I love the watermelons, the juicy watermelons that were the product of the tending of my family. The green beans, I began a love affair with green beans that I have today. Thank God in the South you understand how good green beans are. And we had our own pumpkins. Every year we grew our own pumpkins, and it was wonderful to tend the pumpkins, to turn them just right so they were perfect shape when Halloween came. And then I fell in love with a vegetable called kohlrabi. Anybody ever heard of it? I don't know what it is. All I know is when Grandma fixed it, it was really, really good. So we had to work this garden, and it was really fun to till the soil once, maybe twice. It was really fun to get the hose and to go water the seeds once, twice, maybe 3 times. It was really not fun to hoe the weeds once, twice, or 3 times, but I did it a couple of times. I loved picking the vegetables once. And my grandmother, she was the goddess and the keeper of the garden. She told me over and over and over and over again, because my grandmother was also very consistent. Gardening is an everyday experience. The work isn't a one-time event. A lot of people in New Thought are looking for the easy way out. There's not an easy way out. Work the program, or the program will work you. If I want the treasure of a lemon cucumber and that juicy watermelon, it's a commitment to tending the garden in a regular, meticulous, and methodical way. That's when you get the best harvest. As you sow, so shall you reap. Say that with me. As you sow, so shall you reap. Now make it personal. As I sow, so shall I reap. As I sow, so shall I reap. You know, there were days when it was hot. Growing up in Gilroy, California, we knew heat. 100, 102, 103, and it was really inconvenient to go out to the garden and take care of it. Days I wanted to play baseball or ride my bike was really inconvenient And the days, anybody ever feel like when you have all that sun that feels so good, the weeds are plentiful? They're responding as we are responding to the sun. Yes, here's light, let's grow. It was not convenient. Those were the hard days. And those were the exact days that my grandmother said that the garden needed my consistent attention. You walk away on those days, that's when you don't have the watermelon tomorrow. That's when you don't have the pumpkin or the lemon cucumber or the kohlrabi or the green beans tomorrow. That's when I cannot give up. That's when I must be consistent with my practice. Likewise, our spiritual growth and prosperity requires steady tending, steady watering, not just when it's convenient, not just on the good days. Anybody try that? I tried giving and being generous and tithing on the good days, and my life stayed stagnant. There were no blooms on the tree. When I confronted my fears, confronted my anxiety and my worries and my stinking thinking, suddenly I was consistent with the practice, and there was a consistent harvest of good in all forms in my life. It's cause and effect. Now, don't get me wrong. Being generous once is a really good thing. And no, the world will not turn down your generosity once, but you're not going to have the garden that you were designed to have doing it once. What I found with my service, my giving, my tithing of my gifts, that the seeds only manifest with conscious and consistent practice. And when I stop, so does the flow. Spiritual law, folks. Spiritual law. When I stop, the flow stops. Take a breath. I'm going to invite the band to come back up. Spiritually, I have learned that the fruits of my consistent efforts are as sweet as the watermelons. On my spiritual practice, the good that comes to me is as sweet as the watermelons and the lemon cucumbers, as yummy as the green beans. The first job of gardening is what? Any gardeners in the room? What's the first job of gardening? Prepare the soil. You don't have good soil, you don't have a good garden. What is the soil for the seeds that we're planting here at Unity North? What is the soil? Anybody? Oh, Bill, say it loud, proud. Thinking. My consciousness is the soil. And so I get to ask myself the question, what is the soil of my consciousness like when I am asked to give? Oh, I better have good soil. What is the soil of my consciousness when I'm asked to give consistently? The soil is either conducive to a harvest or not, plain and simple. It will expose very quickly, I believe, in a finite universe or an infinite universe. I believe in the manifestation of God's kingdom on earth, or I believe that we're limited and I have to get mine because there isn't enough to go around. When I was consistently afraid of not having enough, I withheld. And that's the harvest I reaped, not enough. And when I was consistently knowing that the universe was taking care of me, I was so close that my grandmother was right there to pull the weeds at 92 years old, to water the garden at 92 years old, to hoe the rows for the vegetables, and to enjoy the labors of that fruit at 92 years old. When I knew that there was a presence with me, the goddess of the garden of my life, that's also what took root. Prosperity, abundance, regular input, regular receiving. A little music would be nice. So whether it be a child, a garden, a dogwood tree, or an experience of health, an experience of prosperity, of joy, whatever it is you are seeking, whatever the dream is, consistently tending the soil of your thought and then taking an action based upon good soil, based upon a decision that maybe in 10 years I'll have a dogwood tree. There'll be bamboo. And I'm going to do whatever it takes when it's hard and it's hot and it's difficult to put one foot in front of the other. Not once, not twice, but over and over and over again. Over the next 2 weeks, we are going to be asking you to tend the soil of your consciousness, to consider joining our consistent giving program. It's going to, the offering, you're going to have a request. And I'm challenging you to follow the example of those that have gone before me, to follow my example, to follow the example of the board of directors that said, no, we will not waver from living in the flow, in the generous, prosperous nature and consciousness of God. This church is a child, and we're co-raising it. We are co-creating this spiritual family. Your consistent efforts create a consistent environment that will allow Unity North to flourish, to heal, to achieve, and thrive in a safe container. A final quote before we get into the meditation. It's from Robert Collier. Together, success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out.